Attention wrestling fans. You're now about to listen to the men coming down the aisle from the main streets of South Elgin, Illinois, with a microphone in his hand and questions on his mind. This is Whaddya Say with DDJ.
Welcome, everyone, to this very special episode of Whaddya Say with DDJ. This is episode number 33. And this week will be a continuation of my Whaddya Say with DDJ Invades the Pro Wrestling Junkies Pod Squad series. This week, I sit down and talk with the three hosts of the very fun show, Such Good Shoot, that goes live on YouTube at 10:05 Eastern every Thursday night, and with an audio version dropping on all major podcasting platforms every Saturday morning at 4:20 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So you'll be hearing me interview all three hosts. That would be Shane Green, Isaac Gresser, and Steven Dozer. Each are going to have their own little take on things, so I hope you really enjoy this. So just grab your cold beverage, grab a good snack, get comfy in your favorite chair, and kick back, relax, and enjoy episode 33 of Whaddya Say with DDJ and my guest this week, the men of Such Good Shoot.
This is Steve Michaels, the master of the Chicago Bear Hug, and you are listening to Whaddya Say with DDJ. And if you don't listen, I swear I will send the rest of the legacy of brutality after you, and you don't want that.
All right, welcome back to another episode of Whaddya Say with DDJ. Another one of my very special invasion episodes. This week, I start profiling the men behind Such Good Shoot, and joining me is one of those men. That is my very dear, close, personal, longtime friend, Shane Green. Shane, how are you doing this evening?
Good. How are you, DDJ? Thanks for having me.
And my pleasure. My pleasure, and I'm doing well. So I'm going to get right into it. First question I usually ask everybody on my show, and you will be no exception. How did you discover pro wrestling?
I don't unfortunately have like a first memory of pro wrestling. That it just doesn't exist in my head. Unfortunately, I wish I had that cool story like everyone else does. But my dad and my mom, my dad more so, used to watch wrestling in the Attitude Era. The 95 to 90, 98, 99. I was born in 1996, so obviously my birth kind of, affected his watching of wrestling. But I think by the time I hit, I don't know, maybe 6 or 7 years old, for whatever reason, he might have been watching Raw, and I kind of just sat down and started watching with him. I'm pretty sure how I started watching wrestling.
I'm going to be honest with you. I think I just aged a little bit when I heard you were born in 1996, because I was already old enough to get my driver's license.
Yeah, I'm the youngin' pretty much everywhere. That's the way it's always been.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm the youngest of three, but pretty much just about everywhere else, I'm just about either the oldest or up there. So, but that's besides the point. So, when you first started watching professional wrestling, did you watch WWF, WCW, ECW, all three, some combination?
It was only WWE. I guess I would have started watching because I remember when they changed it from WWF to WWE, and I remember I didn't understand why, because I was young enough at that point. But it was very, very late. WWF translating right into WWE is pretty much when I stared watching.
Gotcha.
That time frame.
Okay, and who are some of your early favorites?
I mean, obviously, I was a big Cena kid. Especially where he was at that time. I liked pretty much any of the baby faces. I was a big Shawn Michaels guy. in that really long rivalry he had with Triple H. I was a big, just, yeah, like I said, pretty much any face. I was just your stereotypical kid. Just, I like Benoit a lot, though. Like, I remember liking Benoit a lot more than other wrestlers for whatever reason.
Oh, yeah, I was, and still to this day, huge fan of his wrestling ability. Not a huge fan of, the obvious what happened and stuff, but that's for another time and stuff. But, so one of the things I always kind of like to do with the show is get to know the man behind, the person. I mean, obviously, those of you that listen to my show, some of them may listen to the show you do with your boys, Such Good Shoot and stuff. So, but I want people to know the man behind the microphone. So, take a couple minutes, and tell me about Shane Green, the man.
Yeah. Well, I'm pretty short, which I think is constantly referenced. But I'm just, I'm just a 24-year-old dude. That's all I am. And when I'm not on the show, I'm either working, playing video games, or, doing just normal stuff. I don't. You chose the wrong guy for this because I'm boring. We're like.
No, you're not.
But yeah, no. I mean, I just like normal stuff. I'm a big horror movie guy, which is contrary to me liking movies. But I love horror movies. I love music. Obviously not today, but I'm a big concert goer. I would say in a normal year, I average, I don't know, 60 shows probably.
Wow.
Yeah. So. But yeah, other than that, it's just playing video games and watching wrestling, man.
That's kind of what I do sometimes in my spare time. So, video games. What are you currently playing right now?
So I play a lot of Apex Legends with my buddies. I'm really into the Final Fantasy VII remake right now.
Okay.
Yeah, it's free on PlayStation Plus for the month, and I never actually played Final Fantasy VII. I was never able to, so I'm experiencing this classic game for the first time, and obviously the newest form. Having a really good time with that, and other than that, I'm playing a game called Escape from Tarkov, which is a PC exclusive, ultra hard. Everything kills you. It's very scary.
Yeah, me. I just recently started getting back into playing Halo online, and I'm way rusty.
Which Halo?
Well, just the Master Chief Collection that came out for the Xbox One and stuff. And I just go on there, play whatever they throw at me, multiplayer and stuff, But do that, try to do some sport games, that kind of stuff. But just that's only when my spare time, when when I have time from work, and if I have the house to myself, or my kids sleeping or whatever, and that. So just whenever I can squeeze a little bit of gaming in, I try to do that and stuff. So
yeah.
So now, obviously, I've gotten to know you over the past few months through Pro Wrestling Junkies, which is a really, what really brought a lot of us together. But your show, Such Good Shoot, has been going on probably, I believe, a little bit longer than the Junkies group has been in existence. Tell me a little bit how you hooked up with your co-host Isaac and Steven, and how the concept of Such Good Shoot came about.
Yeah, so Isaac, Dozer, and I all met in a cigar group. And if you ever listen to the show, we bring it up fairly often. I was really into cigars right after I turned 18 up through, I don't know, maybe 2021-ish. And since I've kind of fallen off of the hobby a little bit for a couple reasons. But yeah, we all met in that group, and just became friends through that means. But then Isaac and I have always kind of talked, just personally amongst ourselves. And I've actually met Dozer in real life, because people who don't know, we all live in pretty different portions of the country. So
right.
Isaac and I have actually never met in real life. Dozer and I met at a cigar get together one time. But Isaac and I have known that like each other liked wrestling for a real long time, and pretty much when the pandemic hit and everything kind of shut down, I made some post about wrestling, and then Isaac was like, "Hey man, check this out," and then I was like, "Cool," and then we started just on like my days off, and he obviously had quite a bit off. We just started watching wrestling together. And we would just share YouTube videos or whatever and play at the same time. And we got to figure out that he and I have vastly different tastes, and we would bitch at each other about it. And we thought it would be funny to publish it. And he was like, "Hey man, Dozer liked wrestling, right?" And I was like, "Oh, I had no clue." And then so Isaac made just a group chat. We all kind of watched wrestling a little bit together. It worked. We came up with the name first. We just said, "Hey, screw it. We'll just talk wrestling for an hour. And if people want to watch, cool." Like
Yeah. So it's really cool because the circumstances of your show starting kind of was pretty similar to the same with me. I started the show as a way to get people like, most specifically on the independent scene, in the Chicagoland area, which is where I'm from and stuff, kind of give them a chance to get themselves out there, get themselves over, let them have a voice, let them plug their, merch and stuff, like ways people can support them because, a lot of these people that I have on my show don't have the ability to work like, say, the people like the Codys, the Kennys, the Drew McIntyres and stuff like that. So it's kind of weird that people, they talk about how bad last year was, because of the pandemic. And while it did have its fair share of not so good things, there's a lot of good that happened last year, and I think, and I'm sure you would agree with me on this, us starting our podcast, was one really good thing that's come out of this. And it's been one of those things that's really helped me get through this pandemic. And I'd like to ask you, would you feel the same thing that your show, Such Good Shoot, has helped you personally kind of deal with the stresses and everything that the pandemic has brought forth onto all of us?
Yeah, no, I mean, absolutely. Like I said, even prior to us being hosted by Pro Wrestling Junkies, I mean, we were doing it for just, my girlfriend, my dad, and maybe his buddy and some other people. But no, I mean, it constantly provided, an hour or, really, obviously pre-PWJ, we could just talk for really however long we wanted. But yeah, we would just sit and drink and just shoot the shit about wrestling. And it was always, and is always something to just look forward to because it kind of feels like hanging out with people again.
Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of how I feel, with doing the show with Spencer and Jovan, doing the Junkyard with them. I get that vibe that and I understand that vibe that you're talking about that you have with Isaac and Dozer, because I kind of have that same vibe with Spencer and Jovan. And you did mention your girlfriend, Erin. Shout out to Erin there. So had to give her a shout out. I know she'll appreciate that and stuff. So, but now I know I believe she's a wrestling fan, right?
Yes.
Is she as much of a wrestling fan as you? Is not as much or more so than you?
Oh, not even close. Yeah, not. I mean, as far as wrestling watching goes, I trump her. Yeah.
No, I'm the same with my wife. So.
Yeah, no, I mean, she definitely enjoys wrestling though. But I unfortunately for her, she doesn't really have a whole lot of people to watch wrestling with. You know what I mean? So,
yeah.
Because her mom isn't into it, like where Wade, my dad, is. So I just didn't watch wrestling with Wade. Wrestling's just not as fun by yourself. I think pretty much everyone can agree with that.
Right. Yeah. Since the pandemic started, I've haven't really been able to get together with my usual group of cohorts to watch like the WWE shows or something like that. I've been able to go to a couple wrestling shows, and the best part about that kind of thing is, like you mentioned, watching with like your friends and stuff, or going to the shows with your friends and that. So that actually brings me to my next question. This is something I asked Spencer and Jovan on my show last week, and I'm going to ask this to you, and then I'm going to also ask this to Isaac and Dozer when I interview them. But what is the one thing that really separates the professional wrestling fan base from, like, say, the fan bases of, Major League Baseball, NFL, NBA, NHL, all that? What makes wrestling fans unique compared to all the other fan bases of the major sports?
I would say the passion, and I would say it's a unique passion, but it's still a familiar passion to those other brands. Like obviously with the NFL, Bears fan, right? You're a diehard Bears fan. You know what I mean?
Yeah, despite it's rough being a Bears fan right now. I mean, the highlight of our free agency has been just signing Andy Dalton and stuff. So whoop-de-doo. But
I don't know, man. You guys are still in the Watson, the Deshaun Watson sweepstakes somewhere.
I wish
could happen. But anyways, like, wrestling fans are so passionate in any direction. For something that's not real, and that's something like kind of truly unique in such a live format, right? Like there are obviously Star Wars fans that are diehard passionate about Star Wars, but for something that's live, that's being presented as real, that we obviously all know is not real, and then for this fan base to have this many people just doing podcasts, you know what I mean, and wanting to talk about it, to your IWC people that are mad at everything, myself included, to the 4-year-old, right, that is just a John Cena fan and can't name any other wrestler. But everyone that likes wrestling is passionate about it, because we're not like a cool group of people, right? Like it's not cool to like wrestling, and it hasn't been cool to like wrestling since the Attitude Era died. So in order to like wrestling, you have to pony up for the experience of being a fan, and that means a bunch of people say, oh, it's not real, right? And to endure all of that and still go back to either watching something you say you hate or watching something that you love.
Right.
Yeah.
One of the things that I always tell people why I like wrestling and why I love wrestling as much as I do is because wrestling has really allowed me to, meet a lot of new people, like, getting to know you, getting to know, Isaac and Dozer, and considering you guys friends, and being on your show. And I love to, coming on and, shooting the shit with you guys and stuff. I love talking wrestling with Spencer and Jovan on the Junkyard. I love doing these interviews that I do on my shows, and getting to really get an understanding of, what goes on in the mind of professional wrestling, professional wrestlers, and kind of getting more of an appreciation for the business as, I learn more and I get to know people that are directly involved and things of that nature. So that's always like one of the things I really love. It's just, I think, and also too, and I'm sure you would agree with me in this, wrestling fans are the friendliest fans out there. I mean, you can go anywhere. Like I can tell people countless times, I go to shows by myself. By the end of the night, I've made at least 1 or 2 new friends just from sitting there talking.
It's like this with everything. So I don't want to sound like I'm calling out wrestling fans, but to me, it's kind of one of those 50-50 things. Like, and it also really kind of depends on where you go wrestling show wise, right?
Right.
Like if you're going to the Lucha Underground tapings, unless you're a D-bag, you know what I mean? Like all of those guys are going to be cool, but obviously you run a chance, especially at like WWE events and things like that, of meeting some, kind of unsavory folks. But yeah, no, like when you get a cool wrestling fan, it's always going to be cool, because again, you guys have this common interest of this thing that not too many other people like. So you're immediately going to have a deeper bond than just 2 random people that met. You know what I mean?
Right. Yep.
Um,
So obviously we're starting to come out of this pandemic and things are starting to open up. It's just announced we're recording this particular interview on Wednesday, March 17th. It was announced earlier today that, both each night at WrestleMania, they're going to have up to 25,000 people. So, like, if wrestling shows start opening up a little bit more in your area, do you plan on going when you're able to do so, like right away? Or are you going to wait a little bit longer?
Well, Ohio, just to pull back the curtain a tiny bit, Ohio's in a really weird place where like our governor has started saying he's going to start repealing things a little bit if we get down to X cases, whatever. But he also announced a couple days ago that all Ohioans will be eligible for a vaccine by, I think, March 29th, so the end of this month.
Wow.
So the answer is, if, tomorrow he said, yo, like, everything's open, do whatever the hell you want, you know what I mean? Or if whatever, a show got announced that was acceptable within the current guidelines, no, I wouldn't go, just because I know that the vaccine's on the horizon and then I can just go after that.
Right.
But if this was going to be something where you're like, hey, we're going to be this for another year, but there's a show happening that's meeting the requirements, do you want to go? The answer would be absolutely yes. It's just, I'm, at least in my state, we're nearing getting a little bit more out of this. So
right.
Yeah,
I agree. I mean, I would, if I had the opportunity to go to WrestleMania, I don't know if I would, at least until I got vaccinated, just for kind of what you said. I mean, I've been to a couple shows since the pandemic started, but each show, all, measures were put into place, everything, safe as possible conditions, absolutely have no problem, and I mean, if all those are met, I'm still going, because I mean, I miss going to shows, I was supposed to go to a ton of shows last year and probably this year. And I mean, basically since the pandemic started, I've been to 2 shows. That's it. Normally it'd probably take me, maybe I do 2 shows in a month or something like that. So it is what it is. But a couple more questions here and then we'll start wrapping up. Obviously, most of the people out there that listen to your show are wrestling fans. And obviously you're a wrestling fan as well too. And I know you follow the current product because, we, in our chats and just conversations between us, or, when you've been on, our reaction show and stuff with the Junkyard and stuff, you obviously you demonstrate that you follow the current product. Who are some of your current favorites right now?
I mean, as far as my favorite wrestler today that's in their prime, it's a super cop out, but it's Adam Cole. I legitimately just think he's the guy. But as far as some younger guys, I want to pull out a couple, younger guys that have really impressed me. I think Darby Allin's been very good. I think that, I'll give her a shout out because the match just happened tonight. Thunder Rosa and Britt Baker. I know Thunder Rosa's been around a while, but as far as American television, but Thunder Rosa and Britt Baker have really been working their asses off to save the AEW women's division, other than who's fighting Hikaru Shida. They've been really good. Finn Balor revitalized in NXT is still one of my favorite things. I think those are probably my favorites right now.
Good selection there. So last thing before I let you go, again, you're one of 3 co-hosts of the great show, Such Good Shoot. You guys go live on YouTube through Pro Wrestling Junkies every Thursday night at 10 Eastern, 9 Central Time, with an audio version that drops, I believe, Saturday mornings at 4:20 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Those are the people that are listening to the show that maybe haven't had a chance to listen to Such Good Shoot. Can you explain to them what Such Good Shoot is and why they should check it out?
Real quick, it's actually 10:05. We just set it 5 minutes back. Not that that's a
Oh,
big deal.
10:05. Okay. So
Yeah.
yes. Okay.
So Such Good Shoot is a guy who smokes copious amounts of semi-legal substances, depending on where you live, and then another couple guys who drink. And yeah, we just sit around and we talk wrestling. We joke about being investigative journalists. It's not the case unless we have a guest. But yeah, we just mostly sit around and discuss wrestling. Right now, we got a couple different series going on. We have Takeover Time Machine, where we're going to try and review every single takeover up until we get caught up to the current product. NXT Fatal 4-Way should be coming a week from this Thursday, I believe, on our schedule. We're also doing every pay-per-view, starting from Royal Rumble 97 going to Royal Rumble 98. Other than that, we do a couple tier makers, and then we have special guests every once in a while. Like Just Incredible will be our guest tomorrow night, the 18th. But by the time this comes out, it'll probably be after that. So hope you came.
Well, I'll be there and stuff. So because I try to catch you guys every week because I really like what you do. You guys have also had on. You just recently had on Vampiro, and then a little bit before that, you just had on the WWE Hall of Famer, The Godfather. So what's it like when you get someone, and actually this just popped in my head while you were talking here. So what's it like when you guys get someone, say, like Vampiro or The Godfather on? I mean, what goes through your mind when you get someone of that, notoriety on your show?
It's interesting. The one thing all three of us constantly agree on, and at least one of us says it every single time, whoever the special guest is logs off, and it's kind of surreal. It's a very weird feeling, just sitting and being involved in an hour-long conversation with somebody that you've literally only seen or met on television. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's nerve-wracking. It's I can't really speak for the other guys, but for me, it's a little stressful before we get into it. But once they come on and we get a good feeling of how they are, and that everything's gonna be cool. It's fun. You get to ask a wrestler any questions you want for an hour, and that's a cool thing, because without the show, I would have never gotten to say that I kind of hung out with Vampiro. You know what I mean?
Right. I mean, I know the feeling because we've, on the Junkyard, we're lucky enough to get Tama Tonga, and then we also got Chris Van Vliet. And then on my show, like one of my early episodes, I had former NWA champion Tim Storm on, and it's one of my favorite things when I talk with professional wrestlers is picking their brains. Like, I love hearing them tell their stories, and just, kind of just kicking back and relaxing, and then just realizing that, hey, you know what? Vampiro's just like you and me. He's a human. He's a guy. He, just happens to be a professional wrestler and stuff, and I just think that's the coolest thing. So, but Shane, I want to thank you again for coming on and talking with me for a little bit. I hope my audience got a chance to get to know the man behind the microphone. And so any last words before I let you go?
Other than be sure to tune into the Junkyard, tune into Such Good Shoot, Pro Wrestling Junkies on Pro Wrestling Tees. Pick up a shirt of any of the options, and if you want to come drink a couple beers, maybe do something else, chat, come hang out Thursdays at 10:05.
Awesome. You heard it here first, guys. Once again, Such Good Shoot every Thursday night live on YouTube, and which is viewable through the Pro Wrestling Junkies Facebook page at 10:05 Eastern Standard Time, with the audio version dropping every Saturday morning at 4:20 a.m. Once again, Shane, thanks so much for your time, man. Have a great evening.
Thanks, buddy.
This is Tim Storm, former NWA World's Heavyweight Champion. You're listening to What Do You Say with DDJ. If you love professional wrestling, this is where you need to get your information. Don't miss this.
All right, and we're back on this very special episode of What Do You Say with DDJ as I invade the other shows of the Pro Wrestling Junkies Pod Squad Network. And joining me this time is another host of Such Good Shoot, which you can catch every Thursday night live on the Pro Wrestling Junkies Facebook page at 10:05 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, with the audio version dropping the subsequent Saturday morning at 4:20 a.m. Eastern. Joining me right now is my man wearing the coolest damn shirt out there, Mr.
It's pretty nice. It's a pretty nice shirt.
It is a very nice shirt. And if you want to get that shirt, go to prowrestlingtees.com/prowrestlingjunkies. But enough about my shirt.
Yeah.
Let's get to the man who's wearing the shirt, and that is my good friend, Isaac Gresser. Isaac, how are you doing?
I'm doing really well. I didn't mean to cut off your introduction there, but I'm legitimately so excited about this shirt. And I couldn't wait to tell all your listeners to go out and buy it, man.
You know what? I appreciate, man. Yeah, I appreciate the love.
I bet with what is it, Easter coming up, or if you're into it, Passover. Here's the thing is I'm Jewish, and if you buy like 5 or 6 of these shirts, you can actually use them, fold them up, and you can use them as a cushion on your seat for Passover. That's coming up next week. So make your orders now and get 5 or 6. It'll be a perfect Passover cushion. I promise.
Nothing like somebody's ass sitting on my face during Passover.
Hey man, whatever it takes to get the sales up, let's do it, man. Let's get those numbers up, baby.
I like the way you think. This definitely, that's what you call smart marketing.
Yeah, that's the way my brain works after being awake for 20, 22 hours or whatever it is at this point.
I know the feeling, my man. So
it's good. It's good. I love it. This is when I'm firing on all cylinders. So you got
me
in my prime.
You're like Greg the Hammer Valentine, 35 minutes in the match. You're just getting started.
Yes,
gotcha.
Exactly.
Okay, so for those of you watching the video presentation that's on YouTube, obviously you know what's going on, but for those listening to this on audio, who's that right next to you there?
This is Nat. This is my cat, Nathaniel Turner, Nat Turner. Named after obviously at least obvious to me because I fucking named him, but named after a slave who led a slave rebellion, pretty nasty one that killed a lot of people. I name all my cats after famous black leaders because I love my cats, and I think it's a sign of respect and whatever. It's a little weird. But yeah, this is Nat Turner, and usually on SGS, which is my podcast with my good friends. Anytime Nat Turner shows up, we have to drink. And so I'm going to take a little sippy poo out of my coffee cup here.
You go ahead and do that. And that's so. All right.
Yeah. Ooh, that's not coffee.
All right, so my first question for you, Isaac, and this is something I ask every guest I have on here. It's kind of become the tradition.
Yes.
How did you discover professional wrestling?
How did I discover it? It sort of goes back to I grew up in the middle of nowhere. I grew up in a town literally 200 people maybe. We used to joke that it had like 202.5 people, and like the half person was because there was a family with 3 kids and the parents were divorced, and they spent half the time in my town and half the time in another town. So like that was like 1.5 kids. So like legitimately, like we didn't have our own post office. We had a church that got used once a year, and no paved roads, like literally nothing. Like you can drive through it and like you wouldn't notice it was there. It's on the side of a mountain. And I was pretty far from school. We didn't have TV. Like my parents were hippies. So like I just wasn't exposed to anything like until like I watched cartoons when I would go to New Jersey to like visit my grandparents. But like until I was like 11, 12, like that range, like I just never really watched much of that. I didn't have much exposure to, I had a lot of exposure to music. I had a lot of exposure to art, but I didn't have a lot of exposure to television, especially not pro wrestling. And I remember going and having to stay at, rest in peace, a good friend of my father, Bill Westerfield. fucking insane human being, like crazy genius, but also just fucking crazy. Like, and an old friend of my dad's, and he lived like 5 to 8 minutes from the school I was going to. So we would go and stay there when my parents were out of town.
Mm-hmm.
And back, you're old enough to remember the cable, like old school cable boxes with like the little red numbers on them.
Oh yes,
And you could find
early childhood.
Yeah, you could find a guy, and the guy would sell you for a small price a little thing that would fucking unscramble all the scrambled channels and all this shit. And like my buddy, like the guy I stayed with, had one of these, and I remember watching old Raws and old pay-per-views, but the Raw was like what hooked me, and it was a Tatanka match. And I don't remember who Tatanka was fighting. Like my guess is best guess is Brooklyn Brawler, but I was like 11, and I've done way too many drugs since then to actually have a clear memory. But I just remember watching it and being like, what the fuck is this? And something about the idea of like a Native American fighting a fucking like half homeless dude from Brooklyn, like just like it just blew my mind. I was like, what is this? And it just, yeah, like I guess like from there, like I got really into Raw, and especially once the Attitude Era started, because like, you know, like once I hit like, because I was like 95, I was 11, 12, 13, Attitude Era started rolling, and yeah, it was like puppies and fucking all this shit, and like it was just a great time to be a wrestling fan. You know, the Attitude Era was a really good time. So yeah, like once I got hooked, yeah, like that, it was a long time before I just gave up on it. You know, like it was really good for a while, and then but yeah, it was early 95, early Raw that really got me into pro wrestling.
Gotcha. And who were some of your favorites when you first started watching? Like who did you meet, who immediately like drew you in when you saw them on TV?
The ones like I can remember, like I really remember being into like The Godfather was always like one of my like early childhood favorites, because you know, like hose, he had the hose, man. They were God, they were fucking hot. And D'Lo Brown, something about D'Lo Brown always like really resonated with me. I liked him a lot. I really liked like Ken Shamrock and Stone Cold, but I mean, like when it comes down to like the guys who like transcend the business for me and are like my top 5, like when I really get into like the best of the best for me personally, like it's Roddy Piper, Brock Lesnar, Kurt Angle, Mick Foley, and Stone Cold. Like those guys are like my Mount Rushmore, like my top 5 really of like pro wrestling, the guys that I just, everything they do. And like, you know, there's a lot of guys who are in the top 10, but those guys for me are,
to quote Randy Savage, the cream of the crop.
Yeah. Oh, the cream. Yeah.
Yeah. My top 5: Flair, Steamboat, Randy Savage, Steve Austin, Kurt Angle. That's my top 5 right there.
And I can't argue with any of those guys. Like, you know, like Ric Flair for me is like, and it's a difference between being like Ric Flair for me is the greatest of all time. Like I really do think he is the greatest of all time when it comes to professional wrestling. But like, because I didn't get to grow up with him in his prime, like he doesn't resonate the same way with me. I think for me, the reason like Roddy Piper resonates so much for me is like, you know, he transcended pro wrestling in a way that most people can't, you know, in the way that The Rock does. Like, you know, he was a huge star like outside of pro wrestling.
Yep.
And he also managed to continue doing that. I mean, he was in It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia and was hilarious in it. He was on fucking, was it I think it was Fantasy Factory with Rob Dyrdek.
He may have been on there, yeah.
because like they did like a match, like a before WrestleMania on like one of the WrestleMania All Access things or whatever. Like you tag teamed with fucking Roddy, like Rob Dyrdek and Roddy Piper tag teamed.
Wow.
And so like, like it's a guy who like really like, I mean, going from being in like the first WrestleMania, right?
Yeah, he was part of that main event.
Yeah, to main eventing that, to like being in, yeah, like that's a really incredible career. But yeah, so like guys like that really drew me in, but yeah, during the Attitude Era, I mean, Val Venus, like anything where that it was just like over the top, Although I never got into DX, I was never a huge fan of them.
Really?
It just never. I don't know. There's something about it that never. It just seemed a little over the top, and like. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what it was about it, but it just never hit with me the same way that like Stone Cold hit with me. The way that, like, yeah, D'Lo Brown was one. Steve Blackman was another guy who I fucking loved back then. Like
criminally underrated during the Attitude Era.
Yeah, and like there was so much going on then, and like looking back, like so many missed opportunities. Like. You had Ken Shamrock and Dan Severn in the same company at the same time, and you didn't do anything with it.
Nope.
Anything at all. And it's like it's like a fight that like still to this day I would pay to see. And like even if it's a fucking a work, like I would love to see it. So
right. So one of the things I've asked I asked Shane when I interviewed him. I'll ask Dozer this when I talk to him after I'm done recording with you, and I also brought this up with Spencer and Jovan on last week's show. But what is it about the fan base of professional wrestling that really separates it from, say, like the fan bases of, the NFL, the NBA, hockey, Major League Baseball, and all of that in your mind?
Let me finish my drink real quick. Because honestly, I think that's a really good question. And I don't know if you'll like the answer. Maybe you will, maybe you won't.
Hey, you know what? Everybody's offered a different answer to this question. That's kind of what I go for. I'd rather have everybody, speak what's on their mind, because that's what this show is about,
I think like the fact that it's a work, makes it separate, differentiates it, in a big way. It makes it harder. But I think one of the things that really like separates it is that the majority of like the actual wrestling fans, and especially like the diehard fans, like they kind of hate pro wrestling in a way that like other sports fans don't hate the sport that they root for. They might hate their team, they might hate the team's ownership, but like they like generally love like the entirety. And there's something about wrestling that like, especially now the wrestling fan base spends the majority of their time complaining about whatever, it doesn't matter what it is, complaining about like the sport itself and the way it's presented and this and that. And like it's kind of, I just feel like it's a slightly, I don't even know what the right word, like it's a fan base that like you can never please in a way, because like you don't have that like ultimate goal in the same way that you do in other sports. So like you have baseball, you have 30 teams, 15 in each league or whatever, and you have like these enough games where at the end of it the teams play until you have two teams that play for the ultimate prize. Right. And so like, despite like all the bullshit, like you have a goal, And sometimes it, and like your team might not win, and like you might have times where you're pissed at your team, but like the sport of itself like feels like there's a continuity to it. And I think the way that professional wrestling has been presented since they really just blew up kayfabe, it's been very hard to create a product that pleases everybody and that like is coherent in a way, because like the idea of professional wrestling is like a very clear idea. It's like these are matches, but we've gotten into sports entertainment. And when Vince created this idea of sports entertainment, the only reason he did it was because he didn't want to pay licensing fees anymore.
Right.
And so, but there was never a clear idea of what sports entertainment actually was. And I think we're still suffering from that, like it's like, okay, like let's create the like what it is, and then we'll figure out like actually like what that means later. And I think we're still in that zone. And the fans are like so diverse in what they want to see. Like there's no real like coherent fan base that like everyone agrees on anything. You have people who it doesn't matter what they do, they're like they love AEW. There's people, it doesn't matter what they do, they love NXT. There's people, it doesn't matter what they do, they love WWE. And it seems to me personally that what that means is like if you're the person who loves AEW, you have to hate anything that anyone else does, and vice versa. And I think that's detrimental to the product. But I'm also coming from someone who kind of hates everything that's going on, because I grew up watching like the end of pro wrestling, the beginning of sports entertainment, but there was still like a sense of kayfabe. Like I believed it, and like we just got done interviewing Just Incredible. And one of the things that we talked about was like the idea of selling after a match. Like even if it's like a small show, like him sitting at the merch table selling hurt ribs. And the idea of like just going that little extra to like, like, because once you break the suspension of disbelief, it's really hard to get into it. Like everyone knows that movies aren't real. Right. Like there's no question that like John Wick is a fucking, it's fake. All of it is fake. Right. But like the things that set it apart, or that like you can when it's Keanu Reeves doing all this stuff, like you can almost believe that he's actually doing it, right? Like yes, it's a movie, but like that he's gone through all this training and he really could do this possibly. But if he at some point in the middle of that like decided to stop and have like a break where they just completely break like the suspension of disbelief, it's going to make it hard for you to enjoy John Wick for what it is. And I think that's one of the things pro wrestling suffers from, is that like they spend too much time trying to please everyone instead of just trying to please people who love pro wrestling and watch it for that. Like I mean, I get why WWE caters to kids for the most part. There's a lot of money in that, but like I don't understand why anyone else in the business is going to work to just cater to everyone possible. Like, like start out and present a product to people who like pro wrestling and get them invested in it and go from there.
Cool. So you brought up that you just finished recording with Just Incredible. And for those of you who didn't get a chance to watch it live on the Pro Wrestling Junkies Facebook page, be sure to go to the Pro Wrestling Junkies Pod Squad, which you can find by just typing in Pro Wrestling Junkies wherever you get your podcast from, be it Apple, Spotify, Google, whatever. And be sure to check out the audio version of this great episode.
Yeah. Although I will say is like, if you're on the page, on the Facebook page, or I'm so fucking bad at promoting my own show. I don't even know when it goes live on YouTube. I know it goes live at I think 4:20 on Saturdays or something on the podcast network. But But if you want to see just incredible, fucking, I think take a shit in the middle of our podcast while we interview him, go do it, because fuck, man, that was incredible. Like that was just incredible.
Yeah,
I had so much fun in that interview, though, man. That
it
was
looked like
like,
it.
oh, I was having a blast because, like, I mean, the one thing about Such Good Shoot in our podcast is like it really, like, I mean, and it started almost a year ago now. I'd have to actually go back and check, but it really started in the pandemic and us like deciding like, okay, let's do something, like, even if it's just us doing it, like we're interacting with each other and this and that. And yeah, man. And so to go to that and then to like jump on Pro Wrestling Junkies Network and then now having the opportunity to interview people like that, it's been super, super surreal, man. It's been fucking super surreal.
Right. Yeah. I know with when I've had on my show, I've had former NWA champion Tim Storm on, and then doing the Junkyard with Spencer and Jovan. We had on our second episode we had Tama Tonga, and then a couple episodes later we had Chris Van Vliet. I mean, it's just so like you said, surreal is the perfect word to describe. What it's like being able to spend some time talking to these people that we watch on TV. And one thing I wanted to bring up was, and you had mentioned that he was one of your favorites when we talked earlier in the interview. You guys had on The Godfather, and having having him being one of your favorite. What was that like for you personally to be able to have The Godfather on and spend like an hour just talking with him?
That was, I mean, and here's the thing, it wasn't just an hour. Like, I wasn't expecting this at all. He jumped on the stream like maybe 25 minutes early.
Oh wow!
And he literally just sat there and just like shot the shit with us. Like from the second he hopped on, and I think it was Shane's girlfriend Erin who said this. Like he's never met anyone who wasn't his friend, right? Like everyone he's ever met his friend, and he was just so like genuinely like fun, and like you can just tell like he has a great life, like he really enjoys himself.
Oh, absolutely.
And yeah, I never in a million years would have guessed that we would have that opportunity. I did a ton of work on that one, like because I was so nervous, like like that was our first big interview. I mean, that's a guy, I mean, he's a legend. He's a fucking Hall of Famer. He's in the Hall of Fame, you know, like, and he could easily be in the Hall of Fame twice, or 3 times. Honestly, now that I think about it, he could go in as Papa Shango, and he could easily go in with the Nation.
Right, absolutely.
So here's a guy who, like, a legitimate WWE, like, could have 3 rings, like. And you know what? Here's something exclusive for you. My prediction is he will get rings for both of those for those works. I think he will get a ring, at least the very least, for the Nation of Domination.
I could easily see that happening. So when you guys do your show, when you're not interviewing someone, say like The Godfather or Vampiro or Just Incredible, you guys talk about like old shows, old pay-per-views, that kind of stuff. What is the how does it differ for like when you guys do, prepare for your show, when you're just reviewing a show per se versus interviewing someone like, say, Vampiro or The Godfather, if there's any difference in preparation?
For me personally, and I can't speak for anyone else, but for me personally, there's a big difference in preparation. Mostly because, like, when it comes to like reviewing an old show or even like a current show, like really what it comes down to is like it's me, it's Shane, it's Dozer, and we're all like giving our opinions on it. And, like, it's just like us getting, like a little drunk, a little stoned, and just having a good time.
Right.
When it comes to the interviews, like, I don't know, like for me, I feel like it's it's kind of an obligation to take it a little more seriously. So I mean, for, you know, like, and it's also just more, you know, like with the pay-per-view review, like you watch a pay-per-view, you take notes on it. Sometimes you watch it twice, but like, you know, at the most, like that's 6 hours of like work. And its work is just watching it and being like, oh, that's interesting, or I don't like that, or I do like that. But for the interviews, like, I mean, one of the things that I really want to do and what I really want to be as an interviewer is I want to ask the questions that haven't been asked before.
Yes, I love those.
You know, and like that's the thing is like, you know, if I'm so that means I have to listen to a lot of interviews. So like I listened, like, you know, like for Just Incredible, I probably listened to a good, you know, 6 or 7 hours of like shoot interviews and this and that, and then, you know, watched a bunch of old matches because I wanted to see if there were things that, you know, I could find that other people hadn't seen or other people hadn't asked. You know, there's a lot of questions that I feel like people get asked over and over and over again. You know, like it's like, you know, if like you have Bret Hart, you know, like everyone likes to ask about the screw job,
right?
You know, or the concussion, you know, in his career. But like, you know, there's so much more there, and you know, like what the fuck is there new to say about the screw job? There's nothing new,
right?
And so. You know, like the things that I do for the interviews, you know, I spend a lot of time watching old interviews. I watch, you know, spend a lot of time reading any articles I can find about them, good or bad. You know, like time limits prevented me from getting to some of the stuff I wanted to talk to, but that's, you know, the way things go. But yeah, you know, like I want to make a connection with the person in a way that goes beyond just superficial, you know, like fandom questions, you know, like I'm just curious about, I don't know, I'm a fucking weirdo, so I get curious about weird shit, you know what I mean? Like whether it be you know, like the last question I asked is, why were you billed from Ozone Park? Like I know you're not from, like, you know, it's just like weird shit like that, or like getting into like, you know, like I wanted to get a little into his addiction issues and, you know, like how working with DDP and like these things, like I want to talk about realer shit than just,
right,
you know, like the normal stuff. And I mean, you know, being perfectly honest, you know, like when it comes to just like a completely, you know, self-promotion standpoint, I want to hear things that have never been said before so other people pay attention.
Right.
You know, and so like he leaves saying, wow, that was an interesting interview. And if, you know, we get the opportunity to interview someone else, or like that leads to something else and it gives us the experience, and you know, it just gives me practice, you know, because we've been doing the podcast for a year, but the interviews and all that stuff is new. And even, you know, all of it in general is new, and it's not, it doesn't come naturally to me, I guess, in the beginning. Like I'm a cook, spend all my time in the kitchen, you know? Like, so like, yeah, like again, like getting to interview someone like Just Incredible, an ECW champion, getting to interview the Godfather or Vampiro, like guys I legitimately like respect what they do and the work that they've done and the entertainment that they brought to me. Like it's still like we're saying, it's very, very surreal.
Very cool. So a couple more questions here before I let you go. My next question is, one of the things I really like about your show is the chemistry that you have with your co-host, Shane and Dozer. I kind of liken it to the chemistry that I have, you know, with Spencer and Jovan when we do the Junkyard.
Yeah.
So I've obviously I ask this to Shane. I'll ask this to Dozer as well too. What are the circumstances that brought you three together, and why do you feel like you click so well with them?
Well, here's the thing is they're going to tell you okay. I feel like I should give you you want the truth?
Can I handle the truth?
Probably not. But do you want
give it to me anyways?
Okay, here's the truth. They're going to tell you a story, and I'll tell you both stories because we have the official narrative that's like the Wikipedia story, and
Mhm.
I'll give you the exclusive what the real story is.
Ooh.
So the narrative that we like to tell everybody is that we all met in a cigar group.
Mm.
It was a Facebook group about cigar and for cigar enthusiasts, and like we all just sort of became friends, and it was just like it just sort of happened that we all liked wrestling, and yada yada. We really tried to make it as cheesy and sappy as possible, and then but the reality is that we actually, so there's like a lot of like gay cruising sites on the internet. And I don't know you're probably not, you're a married man, you're happy, whatever.
Yeah.
There's a lot of these sites where like you can go online and you can put up these ads and, oh, I'm lonely, I'll meet you at this truck stop and this stall, et cetera, et cetera. And yeah, no, like legit, we, there was a little bit of a confusion. Poor Dozer ended up in the wrong stall at the wrong time, but Shane and I both, had a little misunderstanding. And, after after we all cleaned each other up, we were like, hey, so like, what are your interests? And so here we are today.
Yeah.
But no, shout out to that truck stop on I-95, just outside of Hartford, Connecticut, because there's a lot of memories made there. No, legitimately, I mean, we just met in a cigar group on Facebook.
Oh man, that's hilarious and stuff. I mean, you know what? Knowing you the way I've gotten to know you over the last few months, I expected nothing less. So you did not disappoint.
Oh yeah, come on, man. Yeah.
So last question I have for you before I'm gonna give you a chance to once again plug your show.
Oh yeah.
If you could just sum up who you are outside of such good shoot in a couple minutes, how would you sum it up? How would you sum yourself up?
I mean, man, I don't know. When it comes down to it, my main passion in life is food. I've spent the majority of my lifetime, probably since I was, really, when it comes down to like 5 or 6 years old, preparing food for people. But professionally, since I was like 17, 18, so the better part of 20 years of my life.
Wow.
In the food service industry. And I genuinely love food. I love feeding people. I think the act of feeding people and making food for something is one of like the most intimate acts you can do with somebody that you're not fucking. You know what I mean? Like, because you're creating something that you put in their mouth. You know what I mean? Like, and it's like, it can get super deep into like whatever like psychological shit you want to, but like I think there's like a very profound connection, something that is that intimate and also that life-giving. Like you have to eat. It's not a choice. So, like that aspect of it, I love, and I just love eating myself. Like I love fucking food. Like it's great. And so like that is like a huge part of my life. I'm a father to a 3-year-old son, which is an experience that, again, growing up, I never thought I would be a dad.
Same with me.
Super surreal, but also like when it comes down to it, there's nothing I've ever done that even comes close to the pride and what I've done in creating that life. Like it's the greatest thing I've ever done in my life. Like it really is. And it continues to be, even though it's like the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. But yeah, that's like, like right now, like I love music. I love hip hop. I love art. I love film. And yeah, I love cooking and professional wrestling, is like become like, like from just a hobby to something that's really brought a lot of joy to my life. So, but yeah, like, like my, if I had to really describe myself outside of that context, like what it comes down to is I'm just somebody who really cares about other people and like the things that I really want to do in life outside of all this shit and outside of anything is just make genuine connections with people. And I think that is one of the things that could make a lot of people's lives a lot better if they just fucking forgot about financial aspects of shit. Like you have to deal with it. Like, sure, like you got to take care of the shit you got to take care of. But like when it comes to other human beings and other people, like try and make genuine connections. And sometimes those connections are going to get cut short and they're going to be fucked up. But like go out and try and make them, because in the end, like your life is going to be a lot richer for it. You're going to meet people like fucking DDJ. You're going to meet people like Dozer. You're going to meet people like Shane Green. You're going to meet people like fucking Giovanni Tuhati and Spencer number 13 or whatever.
Number 11. Don't let him.
I'm sorry, number 12, because Jacob, we all know Jacob is at the real number 11. So
I can guarantee you the minute Spencer hears this, he's going to be flipping some shit in his room. So.
Yeah, Spencer, number 12. We got you, bro. No worries. No, but honestly, like all jokes aside, like the genuine connections that you make are more valuable than any money I've ever spent. Because here's the deal. All the money I've ever made, I've spent.
Right.
But all the friends and all the connections I've made that are genuine are still here, right? Other than the people who passed away. And even the ones who have passed away, all the shit that they have given me and brought to my life that have enriched my life, I still carry with me. So like for me, that's who I am. I like some weird shit. I love smoking weed. The occasional drink or two, but when it comes down to it, I just want to be a good human being and make genuine connections with other people.
I loved hearing that. So last thing here, this is your time to for those that are listening to this that maybe haven't had a chance to listen to Such Good Shoot on on the audio or watch the live show on Facebook. Why should my audience tune into an episode of Such Good Shoot?
Oh, they really probably shouldn't. But here's the thing: is I if you enjoy three people who don't know what the fuck they're talking about getting kind of drunk sometimes, and sometimes more than kind of, talk about something that they love. Come check us out, because that's pretty much what we do. Although for their interviews, we actually try and be a little bit more professional. So, but in the end, if you like pro wrestling and you want to have a good time, and join us live, especially because if we're not interviewing people, we're trying to interact with people who are watching live. But yeah, we love reviewing old wrestling, a little bit of new wrestling, but I can't keep up because I'm an old bastard. Come check us out. But really, I think the most important thing is come check out Pro Wrestling Junkies Network, because the Pod Squad has like so much good content from the OG Pod Squad members of What Do You Say with DDJ and SGS and the Junkyard, and then we got Toilet Side Wrestling with Brad Marcus. We got his stuff with the Getting to Know a Junkie. We got Brad and Steve Talk Wrestling, which is fucking awesome.
Yes,
so good. So there's so much to offer on the Pro Wrestling Junkies Network, and with that, you can go on to the Pro Wrestling Tees site and search for Such Good Shoot, and you get the t-shirts. Search for What Do You Say with DDJ. You get this fucking beautiful shirt right here. And if you're Spencer, you get an extra soft. So.
Yeah, so.
I love you, buddy. Man.
All right. Well, as always, you guys keep on rocking. I keep on watching. And I want to thank you for taking some time out of your day, especially after, just getting off interviewing Just Incredible. Again, guys, if you want to check that episode out, by the time this episode drops, that episode will have dropped as well too. So just go type in Pro Wrestling Junkies wherever you get your podcast from, or look it up on YouTube and check out the episode, because it was a great watch. So
yeah,
Isaac, thanks for hanging out with me for a little bit, man. And
thank you so much for having me, man.
Anytime, dude. And I'm sure I'll see you down the road.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
This is P.L. Myers, a shot to the top, pro wrestling's manager extraordinaire. And there's only one thing you should be watching, one thing you should be listening to, and that's the man himself. What do you say with DDJ?
Alrighty then, I am back with the last part of this interview that I have conducting as part of my What Do You Say with DDJ invasion of the Pro Wrestling Junkies Pod Squad podcast. And joining me this time is the third member of the three-man duo that runs such good shoot. That is my main man, Steven Dozer here, who pretty much everybody knows him, just calls him by his last name, Dozer. So
So does my wife, actually.
Oh, really? Your wife started that?
Oh, no, it's a family tradition. My grandfather was just Dozer. My dad was just Dozer.
Wow.
Their wives called them just Dozer. Like, I've been Dozer my whole life. No one knows my first name.
Well, I know it.
Yeah, it happens. Facebook makes me have one.
All right, so we'll keep the tradition alive. I'm going to, from here on out during this interview, I'll just simply refer to you as Dozer. So joining me tonight in this interview here is the one, the only Dozer. Dozer, how are you doing?
Fucking great. I hope I can curse because I'm not good at censoring myself. So,
well, Shane was pretty mellow when I had him on. Isaac, you know Isaac.
he doesn't have a filter.
No, he doesn't. But I wouldn't want him any other way. So no, as long as it's not too gratuitous, I'm cool with a little swearing here, and I'll just make sure. I'll just make sure to put up that explicit language warning when I create the episode. When I upload it to a PodServe. So
yeah, I got to make sure to do that on every episode of SGS. Explicit, yes.
Yeah.
Is there a super yes? Because I need to click that button.
All righty, so let's get right into it. Those of you watching this on YouTube can see that he's got some action going on in the background there. It's a little Money in the Bank from WrestleMania 24, and that's just those of you listening to this on the audio version. You know what's going on in the background there. So it brings me to my first question. I ask everybody that I have on the show this, and you're no exception. Dozer, how did you discover pro wrestling?
I was a child of the 90s. Like, that's what you watched. Like, now it's kind of like, oh, you're a little weird. You watch pro wrestling. Nah, man, back in the 90s, it wasn't if you watched wrestling. It was, are you a WWF guy or you a WCW guy?
Mm-hmm.
Stone Cold or Goldberg. And, like, I can tell you, my first episode of Raw I watched was the episode where Stone Cold dumped some men all over Vince's Corvette.
Nice. That's classic.
Yeah, I don't remember anything from the episode, and I'm going to slowly get there. But, Peacock's messing up my whole thing because I've been slowly rewatching all Raw from 97 on. I'm just going episode by episode, but now they ain't on Peacock, so. And the first time I convinced my mom to order me a pay-per-view was Survivor Series Deadly Games.
Okay.
I've rewatched the pay-per-view. It's a tournament-style pay-per-view, and they're always a bit. Because these tournament matches, you have a 3-minute match here, 2-minute match there. Somebody always gets this never-ending bye. Which, if you've gone, and you can go watch this on the WWE Network on Peacock, you can go watch the Wrestling Classic, which is a classic piece of garbage wrestling. Where the Junkyard Dog just floats to his victories. He counts. He does his own count in one thing. The ref never shows up for the match. It makes no sense. It's hot garbage. But it's there. They loaded that before they loaded all the NXT takeovers. Got to make sure you have that Wrestling Classic.
Wow. I haven't had a chance to check out the WWE content yet on Peacock, so I'll just have to take a browse through there just to see. I've been actually using Peacock. I took advantage of that offer that they're running right now and if you guys haven't signed up for Peacock, take advantage of this offer while it lasts, but they're running a special where you can get 4 months of Peacock for only $10. So it basically comes out to $2.50 a month. So
more importantly than that, if you're one of the many people in this country who gets stuff through Xfinity, Peacock Premium's free. It's included.
Yes, actually, had a cousin of mine reach out to me a little earlier this afternoon, and it was telling me that he's like, "Yo, dude, I get WWE Network for free," and I'm like, "Huh?" And then he tells me he's like, "Oh yeah, I got Peacock through Comcast." I'm like, "Oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense and stuff."
Yeah.
So
I pay the extra $4.99 so I don't have to deal with commercials. But
yeah, I definitely, once this trial runs out, I will definitely upgrade to that as well too, because I mean, there's a ton of stuff actually on there that I do want to check out. Like I'm getting caught up on Superstore, which is a great show on NBC. If you've never seen it, go check it out. And then I can also use it to watch Keenan and Young Rock. And just whatever. One of which it's been a hotly debated topic on your show, Such Good Shoot. I believe you. I did I hear correctly that the infamous cult classic starring one Rowdy Piper called "They Live" that's on there?
that is definitely on there. I've been watching it while I worked the other day.
Oh, I'm probably going to get some heat for this, but I can't leave my man Shane hanging. I have yet to see that movie in its entirety.
You just need to watch it. It's so bad. It's good.
All right, I will definitely take your advice.
Yeah, it's just bad, but it's good, and it makes no sense. It's like John Carpenter did it, and John Carpenter's made some great horror movies, but on this one, he had a Vince moment.
So, kind of getting back, steering the conversation back towards wrestling. Don't get me wrong, this is great and stuff, but I want to get these questions out of the way. When you started watching back in in '98 and stuff, who were some of the guys that drew you in, and I guess it's the easiest way to put it. Who were some of your favorites back then when you started?
All the people you'd expect: Stone Cold, Mick Foley, D-Generation X. For heaven's sakes, everyone went around the schoolyard going, "Suck it, suck it, suck it, suck it, suck it." Bunch of little 12-year-olds going, "Suck it, suck it, suck it," not having a clue what we're saying. And you had a clue, but you didn't really know.
Right.
And that's what it was. It was everybody back then. The Godfather, Pimpin' Ain't Easy. And, the show gave me this great opportunity to talk to the Godfather, which I didn't really talk. Isaac did all the talking. I just got plastered in the background. But, hey, it was a good time.
Yeah. Well, one of the things I just, like I said right before we started recording, I recorded with Isaac, and we talked about the Godfather because he mentioned, how Godfather was one of his favorites. And I asked him, what was it like, to actually spend some time talking to him? And he gave a really good, told a really good story about, just having him on the show. And even the fact that he jumped on about 20 or so minutes before you started recording, just, shot the shit with you guys.
Yeah, as far as that goes, the Godfather, I still think is the pinnacle of our interviews. He got on 20 minutes before. We talked with him. His wife was in the background throwing commentary in. And I don't know if it made the broadcast or not, but there's this one moment where she passes him a drink. And he takes a sip and he goes, "Damn, did you put any Coke in this, Jack?"
Oh, man. That's good stuff, man. I really love the show, and we're definitely going to spend some time talking about that a little bit later. But you mentioned about, who some of your favorites were and stuff like that. One of the questions I've been asking everybody on my little invasion series I've been doing here, and everybody's given some really good answers, and I definitely want to get your take on this next question is, what is it about the fan base of professional wrestling that really separates it from, say, the fan bases of, the teams in the NFL, the teams in Major League Baseball, the NBA, the NCAA, NHL? Like, what makes pro wrestling fans so completely different from fans of, all the other major sports in your mind?
So we're going to talk modern day here. We ain't going back in time because there's a little bit of difference here. But right now, and for the entire time I've been a fan, and to give you the full perspective here, I'm a Philly fan. We hate everybody. But in wrestling, I'm a Hogan fan, you're a Sheik fan. I don't hate you because you're a Sheik fan. We're all just kind of a family. We're all here to see the product get through and just improve.
Right.
We're here to see a great match. We're here to watch the hero beat down the villain, or in some cases, the villain beat down the hero. It's a great time. Whereas, as an Eagles fan, you come up to me telling me you're a Cowboys fan. Get out of here! I don't want to see you around here anymore.
Yeah, I know the conversations between you and Jovan, or who's known as a diehard Cowboys fan. They probably get pretty interesting around the NFL season.
Yeah, we don't talk much about it because you just can't talk about Cowboys fans. They live in a delusional state. The last time they did anything relevant, VHS was still relevant.
Well, the last time my team did anything relevant, I think Beta was still around. So that should tell you how bad I have it, being a Bears fan.
Yeah, but at least you're the Bears. You have SNL to fall back on.
Yeah, but we also just signed former Cowboys quarterback Andy Dalton to a one-year deal worth $10 million with the possibility of it going up to $13 million, So, yeah.
You almost had it worse. You almost took Wentz from us.
Oh, I'm so glad we didn't wind up with him.
Like, you could have had Wentz.
Yeah, well, I'm glad he's the Colts problem now, not a Bears problem. We have our own problems to worry about now.
And it's called your ownership. That's your problem.
Agreed, 100%.
Look, I may be a Philly fan. I live in the D.C. metropolitan area, the DMV, if you're smart. And, we have the worst owner in the NFL here. We got Dan Snyder. He is the Vince McMahon of football. He's not even like the Vince McMahon. He's like if you take Vince Russo and make him Vince McMahon. Give him all the power of Vince McMahon with no checks, no balances, and that's what you have there.
So the only difference, I guess you could say, between Dan Snyder and Vince Russo is that Vince Russo just says bro all the time?
Yeah, bro. Well, we'll find out about the bros. We'll find out about the bros. We'll see how bad that is. But he's a New Yorker, which, I've seen his footage. He's a Giants fan. He ain't much better than the Cowboys fans.
Yeah, it's weird. Vince Russo is a Giants fan on two levels because he's a Giants fan, a New York Giants fan, but he's also a San Francisco Giants fan.
Yeah, I don't get it. He makes no sense. But hey, we'll just put it on a poll and you can see what's the best.
Right. Well, it could be worse. He could be like my co-host on the Junkyard, Spencer Cantor, who has a team for every day of the week.
Well, isn't he one of those people that's like, yeah, I like the Cowboys, the Lakers, the Bulls? Like, just he was.
I remember that with Spencer, like the first 3 weeks of the NFL season, he had was rooting for three different teams. First it was Atlanta, and then it was somebody else, then it was somebody, I can't think, Kansas City or something like that. I don't know. I lost track after 3 or 4 teams. I just gave up. But
let him flip flop. It's okay. Whatever he wants.
Yeah, it's to each his or her own. So kind of going back to wrestling, because seemingly we've gone off the rails with this interview, probably more so than any other interview I've done. But then again, I do represent the Junkyard, where we make going off the rails in art form.
Oh, see, I'm the conductor of the train of SGS, and, well, we haven't found the tracks yet. So. So actually, let's kind of talk a little bit about the origins of Such Good Shoot. First off, in your own words, if you want to put your own little creative spin, like Isaac did during his telling of the origin of Such Good Shoot and how you guys met. I want to hear, probably again, they probably said the same thing, but if you want to put your own little spin on it, by all means, tell me how you came into contact with your co-host Isaac and Shane. Well, we all smoke cigars, and we've joined the Facebook group where we smoke cigars, and we posted the same stupid photos of, hey, look at my cigar. That's how we met. And then, the funny thing is we've met, but we haven't met. I've never met Isaac in person. I know he's tall. He's the tallest of all of us, and Shane's the shortest of all of us. He's like, eep. Shane's a little man. Shane's tiny.
And you said you're 5'6", right?
Yeah, he's I have him beat by 6 inches.
Wow. I I always tell Shane, like, when I talk to him and stuff like that, I'm like, dude, whenever you and Aaron come through Chicago, let me know because we definitely got to hook up. I almost feel like I should bring him like a step ladder or something because, like I said, I'm 6'1", so I'm just going to tower over him.
Yeah. So he's got the short thing going. But, so we did that, and then stuff happened. They've kind of fallen out of cigars for different reasons. I still smoke, as it's my gimmick on the show.
Right.
I smoke and I drink. That's my gimmick. Well, we all drink except for the last episode for obvious reasons. But so we do that, and then we just started chatting about wrestling, and then Isaac and Shane for the longest time have just had this ongoing chat of them going head to head about wrestling stuff. And then they sat there and went, well, we need someone who could be like a moderator between us. And that's how I came on. And then, we did our first episode. We had a fourth guy, and then he disappeared. Not that he was ever really there. If you watch our first episode, which, dear God, please don't watch our first episode.
Okay.
We have a black square. He didn't even have a camera going. So,
wow.
Yeah, so that happened. And, we've been slowly improving the art form as it goes. We like having random guests as we go, and we just have fun with it. We have no grand visions of what SGS will be. We've already exceeded every vision we have. We've spoken to the Godfather, we've spoken to Vampiro, we've gotten Just Incredible. We got some more big ones coming in the pipeline. I've alluded to some of them. We haven't officially announced, so I ain't making the hot drop right now. So there you go.
Wow. Well, one of the things that I really like about your show is, and it's something that I feel a lot of people they've told me they like about the Junkyard, is the chemistry you guys have with each other, much like I have with Spencer and Jovan. And what is it about, like, say, having that kind of chemistry where you guys click so well? Why is it so important when doing a show like Such Good Shoot?
Okay, there's 1,000,001 wrestling podcasts out there.
Right.
You can find everybody who's ever stepped foot between the ropes does a wrestling podcast at this point. And, so there are people who could analyze a match better than you. There are people whose hot takes are hotter than yours, and they're just better. So you got to go on, what can I do what else? So you got to be the personalities, and the personalities are what will make any podcast go. I listen to podcasts about stuff I just don't care about at all. I listen to a motorcycle podcast. I don't get on a bike. 5'6" people don't get on bikes. They're mostly bigger than us. If we do get on a bike, it's a little moped. Like, it's not something we do. So, but I listen to it because the guy who hosts it is a good personality. Now, I've been told his information's way off, but I don't care. Because I'm not listening to it for the information. He's just a good host. So as long as you have that chemistry and you're entertaining in your antics, you can make anything good. You can spend an hour talking about the Wrestling Classic, which is one of the worst pay-per-views WWE has ever put on. Please don't go watch it. Even though they already put it on Peacock. Yes, I'm harping on that. They also put Battle Bowl on there, which is legitimately the worst pay-per-view ever created.
You know what? I'm gonna hold on a second. Battle Bowl, I don't know why, but to me, it's like one of those what I like to call a guilty pleasure.
Yes, I want to see 4 guys in tag matches who have no reason being together as a tag team fight.
It's for me, it's a guilty pleasure for me. It's like, kind of like when it comes to movies, it's really bad, but like I'll sit down and I'll throw in every once in a while. I'll throw in, like, say, Street Fighter or the Super Mario Brothers movie. So,
well, it's like AEW. They recently had that women's tag team tournament that nobody watched because they put it on weird times on the YouTube channel and nobody cared about it because they couldn't figure out how to market it. And I just sat there and went, "You brought back Battle Bowl? Of all the things you could have brought back, Battle Bowl?"
Well, like I said, I back in the day, and I guess it's just me. I have a unique, what I like to call a unique taste, and it's not only in movies, but it's also in pro wrestling.
Yeah, and that's always fair.
Yeah. So one of the things that I discovered, just through getting to know you and stuff is Such Good Shoot isn't the only podcast you do. You have another one, correct?
Allegedly. I think I have 2 listeners of my Disney podcast, but Disney is one of my first loves.
Mm-hmm.
Coming from where I come from, in the time I grew up, a family of 3, there are 2 options. You could go down the shore and stay in a crappy motel room down the shore, which if you're from the East Coast, that makes sense. If you're not from the East Coast, you go down the shore. It's not down. Don't worry about it.
I'm not from the East Coast, but I get the reference.
Don't worry about it. And you stay in a crappy motel, or you could go to Orlando. They were roughly the same price at the time. It's a weird thing. So we went to Orlando all the time as a kid, and then my dad owned a travel agency for a while. So I spent a lot of time in Disney World. Nice. And it kind of became my second home, and now I've been there more times than I'd like to admit to. I think more years than old I am. Though the pandemic's kind of ruining me going. I've canceled, I think, 2 or 3 trips because of it. So, but, I love Disney. And then I have my best friend from New Jersey. Yeah, I'm not going to hold that against him. But he worked at Disney for many years. So him and I just riff on Disney and we talk about whatever we want to talk about. Because we had these great conversations on the phone. And we go, man, we should just record this one day. Because I think we could get some good stuff going. Now, I think with our Disney idea, we're a little too limited because we also talked on our phone calls. We talked pro wrestling. We talked everything. We've had matches that we think, book it. Just book it. We've booked this better than you, Vince. Just do it. As I'm sure every wrestling fan has ever had.
Oh, absolutely.
Because Vince can't book modern wrestling to save his soul.
Nope. So being a big Disney fan, what are your thoughts on the Disney Plus streaming service? I mean, basically having access to all the Disney movies, all the Disney cartoons, the Disney afternoon shows, everything. I'm assuming you're a big fan of Disney Plus?
As a Disney fan, I don't care. I'm a Disney Parks fan. I'm not a big Disney movie fan.
Okay.
Or anything. But as a dad with a toddler, 2 thumbs up.
Yes.
Bluey is probably the most common thing on it.
Yes. I love watching that show with my 5-year-old.
I think I've watched the entire show like 4 times, and I don't really care because it's not terrible.
No, it's actually it's really good, and for those of you who are listening to my show that have kids or have nieces, nephews, or spend a lot of time around kids, if you're not letting your kids watch Bluey, they are missing out because Bluey is such an awesome show with a great message.
Absolutely. And don't make me shoot on that guy, Kalahu or Kaleo or whatever his name is. We don't watch him. He is banned in my house. My daughter has never seen him. She will never watch him because he is a little prick. Yeah, I said it.
I heard. If I'm not mistaken, I think that got canceled.
It did get canceled. And right when it got canceled, one of our favorite segments is the Sheik of the Week. And the Iron Sheik shot on him getting canceled. Yes. And that absolutely needed to happen because nobody likes him. No adult likes him. And I think if you're going to watch a show with your kids, it has to be at least somewhat entertaining for the adults because you're going to watch it 300 times.
Yes, indeed.
You're going to watch it 300 times. You want to make sure the messages in all the shows are good, but how they get there matters. And I can't say his name right now because I've had a little bit too much of this mellow corn bottled in bog. But, throughout the whole show, he's just a little jerk-off kid getting into trouble, causing issues, and it's not not sending the right message to my children. Gotcha. Child at the moment.
So a couple more questions here before I call it a night with you. My my second to last question is going to be, tell me a little, if you could sum yourself up, if you could sum up Dozer outside of Such Good Shoot in a couple minutes, how would you do so?
Dad, cigar smoker, whiskey drinker. There, you have it. The only thing I added is dad. Like, there's not much to add to me. What you see is what you get. I'm not putting on a face. I talk a little bit faster on the show for the intro because I feel you need energy. I watch a ton of YouTube. And there's even one audio episode of Such Good Shoot where I cut out every single dead space, every single breath people took to just get it more of that quick thing you find on YouTube where they cut out every second and it's just one long run-on sentence.
Oh, jeez. Oh, man. So, and then my last question I have for you is, for those that my audience that are listening to this interview right now that haven't had a chance to listen to or check, listen to on audio or watch on, when you guys go live on Facebook or catch the replay on YouTube, why should my audience members who haven't listened to Such Good Shoot, why should they listen to it?
They probably shouldn't, but if you like a good time and you don't have a filter or you don't have little baby ears, because let's be real here, on our show we have somebody doing illicit substances, we have another one drinking beer, and you have me drinking whiskey and smoking a cigar. We're not your mama's kitchen. We're not your mama's wrestling show. We're not your mom. We're not talking as if you're a child. We ain't the PG era. We're not even the Attitude Era. We're a little beyond. We're the ECW.
Nice.
Maybe even the CZW, but we kind of riff on CZW a lot. In fact, in our early episodes, we just reviewed some CZW matches we found on YouTube straight up because they had no copyright protection on them. We just showed up straight up. In fact, we didn't get our first copyright strike till some TNA shit.
Oh, jeez.
And it wasn't even a good segment. It was like a commercial. It was BS. But, yeah. And I'm going to talk about my favorite pay-per-view in the background, WrestleMania 24.
All right.
Because I've been to many wrestling events. I don't know if this was the first pay-per-view taping I went to. But, I was there, and it was just kind of cool to see Ric Flair retire and to go to Orlando as a Disney fan. I knew Orlando. I wanted to go to Orlando. I wanted to be there. We had hopes of going to Disney. That never happened because we realized we're also poor college kids and we had no money to go. And, we stayed at this little crappy hotel next to a prison that the restaurant attached to it sold like the Bada Bing pizza and the Jailbird margarita. It was terrible. It was bad. But hey, we did it. We went to WrestleMania.
Nice, yeah. I managed to get to go to WrestleMania 13. So I was there, when Austin fought Bret Hart, and stuff. I got to go to All In, so I got to see Cody win the NWA title. I've been pretty lucky to see some, momentous occurrences in the world of pro wrestling and stuff.
Well, in that, you were at WrestleMania 13?
Yes, sir.
Well, then consider this your official extension to come on to the Such Good Shoot episode in, hold on, I'll even give you a date. I will drop a date. On April 8th, we want you on Such Good Shoot where we will be reviewing WrestleMania 13.
Done. Count me in. Your breaking news here on What Do You Say with DDJ. Yours truly, DDJ, will be making another appearance on Such Good Shoot as they talk about WrestleMania 13.
Yeah, and I'm excited. I have never watched WrestleMania 13, so this will be my first time when I get to reviewing it. But first, we got our two. We're reviewing Final Four and Fatal 4-Way back-to-back, so that's just an odd coinky-dink.
That is odd and stuff. So, but no, I love this. I love your guys' show. I try to watch every Thursday night when I get home from work. If I'm still out working that late, I don't know why, because most of the time I should be home by that time. But if I'm not around, but I have access to my phone, definitely count on me watching the show and stuff. But my man, I love your show. I love you guys. You guys have been, I love what we're doing with, our shows and what we're doing with, the Pro Wrestling Junkies, the Pod Squad, the group, the fact that we got t-shirts on, people can buy on prowrestlingtees.com. It's just so many cool things have happened as a result of us all coming together, man. And I look forward to what the future holds for us. But Dozer, my man, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me a little bit about it. Give my viewers a little glimpse behind the microphone, and hopefully as a result of this, you guys get maybe a couple more views to your next episode.
I will take that, and in fact, in that honor, and because Just Incredible just took a shit on my show, which if you haven't watch the most recent episode of Such Good Shoot where Just Incredible takes a shit on air. I will do a shot in my creaky tiki mug for you.
Alrighty, man. Well, take the shot. I don't have anything on me, so I'll just pretend I'm drinking.
That works. I didn't prep you for it, so.
Alrighty, my man. Well, thanks again for hanging out with me for a little bit, and I will see you down the line.
See ya.
This is Rockstar Johnny Nye, and you're listening to What Do You Say with DDJ. And make sure you catch the newest episode featuring yours truly. What other reason could you possibly need to tune in outside of the fact that I'm on it? I mean, come on, people. And for those of you who don't tune in, be gone.
Alrighty then. Thank you so much to Shane, Isaac, and Steven for taking some time out of their day to chat with me. And be sure to check out their show, Such Good Shoot, every Thursday night live on the Pro Wrestling Junkies Facebook page at 10:05 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, with the audio version dropping on all major podcasting platforms every Saturday morning at 4:20 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Be sure to check out their most recent episode with former ECW World Heavyweight Champion Just Incredible. It was a great interview, and they had a lot of fun talking to him. Speaking of shows on the Pro Wrestling Junkies Pod Squad Network, you're obviously listening to mine, What Do You Say with DDJ, so thank you very much. Be sure to check out my other show, The Junkyard, that will be dropping every Tuesday morning. And this week we are trying a new, more faster-paced format similar to Pardon the Interruption, which is a show on ESPN, if for all of you familiar with that. I think you're really going to like how that one turns out. Also be sure to check out Steven and Brad's Talkin' Wrestling every Wednesday, and all the other great stuff that we've got going on the Pro Wrestling Junkies Facebook page as well. Well, that's all the time I have today. And once again, thanks to the guys at Such Good Shoot for being on my show. I hope everyone enjoyed the show. And I'll see you in another week with a brand new episode of What Do You Say with DDJ. Thanks, everyone, for listening.
If you love professional wrestling and great podcasts, check out What Do You Say with DDJ on Facebook, Twitter, and also on ProWrestlingTees.com. In the search field, just type in DDJ and buy the best professional wrestling podcast shirt around.